of our important water resources and of our environment. I applaud your efforts and commitment. I send you our very best wishes. She's out of town today, so.
Thank you.
Representing the town of Tuxedo, which is one of many towns that have passed resolutions opposing the. So, what I wanted to do before Jeff starts giving you an artist picture of the Ramapo Valley is to tell you about where you are now. Because I don't believe a lot of you come from this area. Anybody come from this area? Who's from New York State?
We're all from New York State.
Upstate though, huh? Right. And you're from what?
Yeah, I'm a member of the Ramapo Valley.
Right. Anybody else from someplace? Exotic? Okay. So where you are, you began your walk on the shores of the Ramapo River in Mawa, which is in New Jersey, in Bergen County, New Jersey. Shortly after you began your walk, you crossed into Rockland County, and you are currently still in Rockland County, but you are in the Ramapo River. The Ramapo River, or the Ramapo River, if you stand outside the church and look that way, you know, you can probably see the river. The river is the sole source aquifer. It's the water supply for 3 million people in Rockland County and in New Jersey. So it's a very important source of river. And so you are walking these couple of days through the Ramapo River Valley, the river that cut through the mountains. And these are called the Ramapo Mountains on each side. So you can see, with it being such an important source of water, why we're worried about pipelines, and particularly pipelines leaking, exploding, or whatever, coming down through the Ramapo River. Also across the road, across the Route 17 that you walked, is Harriman State Park. And for these towns around here, you have Tuxedo and Sloatsburg, around 3,500 people. Large percentages of the land are owned by the state, either Harriman State Park on up to the east or Sterling Forest State Park to the west. So the pipelines coming through parts of the parks which were created, particularly Sterling Forest State Park, was created to protect water. And now they're talking about pipelines coming through. So there it's another threat, not only to the natural beauty and the animals, but again, to the water. So the valley is very rich in history. Partly of it is the history of the American Revolutionary War. You walk, you're pretty close to where there were places where the soldiers were encamped for several years, and Jeff some other time can give you a whole history of those soldiers. They were also up on top of Torn Mountain, which is part of the Ramapo Mountains, where you can look out and see what happened. The other important history in the area is iron mining. And for 200 years, this area is mostly denuded of trees. And we see this beautiful forest, mostly denuded of trees because they were used to make charcoal for iron mines in this whole area. And if any of you have heard about a big chain that during the Revolutionary War went across the Hudson River to prevent the British from coming up the river, and it sort of helped limit the war, those chains were, the iron ore came from here. So that's part of the history of the area that you came from. Besides the Ramapo Lenape nations that lived in this area in Hilburn and in Mawa, two of the towns that became here.
And still do. And still do. And still do.
And still, right. So, the river parallels the New York Thruway. So you've probably gone under the New York Thruway at some point, or closer to it at times, and it sort of floats in and out, and over the next day or so, you'll be getting where you can see as you're walking, you'll be able to see the thruway cars going back and forth. You'll be able to see parts of the road. And the pipeline will be going paralleling the New York Thruway, but not right here. Where you were walking this morning and where you'll be walking halfway through tomorrow, the pipeline is not right here. It is not following the river here. The pipeline is in fact about 6 miles to the west. Because economic interests kind of moved the pipeline. At one point, the pipeline path was supposed to go through a new housing development, and related company, the company that owned that, negotiated with Pilgrim and moved it, and they moved it right into Sterling Forest, park that we created in order to protect the water. So, probably tomorrow, about halfway through Tuxedo, you will come to a road called Warwick Road, and that is where the pipeline stops coming down from the north along the river and shoots off to the west and goes into the park. Most of the time in the town of Tuxedo, the pipeline, as it goes along the river, will be going through land owned by by the state, Harriman State Park. So this is another case where it's going through land that's supposed to be available to us for recreation. The people in Sloatsburg, this is Sloatsburg, Tuxedo, and Harriman, the next town up, are opposed to the pipeline. We know what happens when there's a problem on the thruway and on the river, and want to protect our towns. So we thank you for being concerned about our river and walking today to oppose the pipeline. Thank you.
Kill the lights and pop up the
Leave that on. So we see a little bit.
Okay, I wanted to give you some refreshing look at some of the artwork that was done by painters starting in the 19th century. Some etchings and a little bit of photography. I'm Jeff Welch from, I'm the curator at the moment, the past decade actually, at a little historic site in Sloatsburg called the Harmony Hall. But I've also been the Ramapo River watershed keeper in different roles throughout the years, and I founded the Ramapo River Committee in 1985. So Sue and I both from Brooklyn originally, but we've learned a lot about this area living up here. Here's a photograph of Torn Mountain, which you passed as you were coming up from right past Hilburn. You might have noticed it up in the south. This is a view actually looking back from the west, so you were looking at the front part of that rock that's jutting out up there. That's the whole Ramapo River watershed. So all the water in that area is going into tributaries or groundwater flow into the main stem of the Ramapo River. And the pipeline would come right in starting up there, then it would let it cut over here now and then come down through Stone Forest and probably still go up in this area and then down into, whoops, on that the watershed, down in Jersey where all these